Thanks for joining us today. This show was filmed on March 27th, 2015. I want to read the body of this memo that's appearing on your screen right now. It's written from a Miss Garza to Mr. Johnson, the Del Mar College Controller, dated February 8th, 2008. And it's regarding the write-off of AR 0-25301. In the body of the memo, she is saying it is my recommendation to write off this account in the amount of $85,604.39. Now she says $81,998.49 has been on the books since 2003-2004 fiscal year. I can't find a bill/s in this amount in my files. I found the bill for 2002-2003 fiscal year, and it was paid in full. Basically, $3,605.90 is from 2004-2005 fiscal year. A bill was submitted in the amount of $69,616.32, but the agency only paid $66,010.42. So she sent in a request, an explanation. The last time a request was made was in May 2006. Ms. Castillo from the agency couldn't give me much information as to why, because she had just taken over the position. She did say that the file had been closed out. This amount has not been placed in the allowance for doubtful accounts. Now, we spoke about fiduciary responsibility in the last program. Let's look hard at this memo. The second sentence says, I can't find a bills in this amount in my files. Okay, they can't find the source document. Very concerning to me with my background in accounting and finance and management. This is an appalling statement. Now, the proposal that we write off the $85,604 because we can't find a bill in my files, let's look at that fiduciary responsibility thing again. This is horrible. Thanks for joining us with the show. I'm going to proceed now with our filming. Dr. Sang Sang and I had some issues that we covered. Please email us or call us. Let us know what you think. Thank you. So it's March 27th. Doctor, we went and visited Del Mar today because they had another document ready for me.
Yeah, documents.
Well, it was documents. And let's walk through the chronology of that if we can, because I think it's very interesting to me, and it should be interesting to everyone, including the state controller, who I sent a whole lot of documentation to. Back on December 10th, I requested information related to the bad debt write-off for a 7-year period, and it was $2.838 million. And I did receive a response that said that, well, actually, first I got a phone call or an email, and I called. They wanted to know where I got the number. The college controller was saying, he asked, where'd you get your number? So I drew a roadmap for him. My number came from their audited financial statements. Their footnote 14 is very informative. It's an audited financial statement, so every number, it's my experience that every number that appears in an audited financial statement, if it's material, there's documentation to support it. And I had been an auditor before, and for several years with one of the large firms, one of the what is now the Big Four accounting firms. So I know what an audit entails, and CPAs do a very good job, and those numbers have to be supported. Well, the college controller wanted to know where I got the numbers. I told him I got them from your audited financial statements, and I drew him a map to show where the numbers came from, to make it easy for them, because I wanted this information, and I wanted to make it easy. So they needed a little extra time. This was December 10th. Now we had the Christmas break, then they came back. They needed a little bit extra time to assemble the information.
Okay, let me stop there for a minute. Okay, so that was December 15th,
December 10th.
December 10th, so it was within a week is when they essentially shut the college down.
That is correct.
Okay, then it opened back up the 2nd or 3rd of January, and then the clock started ticking again.
That's
And
right.
We
Those
picked
were
it up
business
today
days.
on March the 27th.
Right, so it took from December 10 till March 27, which seems exorbitant, but that's not the entire story.
Okay.
So I was told in an email, and they send me emails when my information's ready. I was told in an email that my information was ready. And I believe, I need to get that, I'm going to cut. Okay, so on February 15th, we went in to receive the information that they said was ready.
Right.
They didn't say part of the information was ready, they said the information is ready for you.
Right.
They had to redact some of it. I paid like $26, $27.
Right.
And they gave me 260 or 270 pages of information. So I went back and reconciled it
Okay.
by year
Mhm.
to make sure I had everything. I didn't have it. It wasn't all
No,
there.
I know, but they said you had it.
They said they gave it to me. So I wrote them a letter. I said, I didn't get all the information. Hi, Mr. Cat. And in the letter dated February 15th to Dr. Escamilla, I said, it appears at least $464,539.62 of debits to the allowance for doubtful accounts were not included in the information provided on February 13th.
Mhm.
So we went in February 13th. So I'm missing just short of $500,000. And no one said I was going to be missing documents. They said, here's your documents. We've got it all here for you. Well, it wasn't all there for me. So I wrote back, gave them a reconciliation, said I really want the rest of my documents. Well, on March 13th, that was February 15th that I wrote that.
I know.
So on March 13th, I get a letter from Delmar that thanks me for sending in my PIA, and they said it'll be available on March 24th. This is an interesting thing. The college will also produce 2 letters that were inadvertently omitted from my December 10th PIA. Well, I paid for the information I received today. Those 2 letters that were inadvertently omitted cost me $16,
Mhm.
and there were 169 pages, I believe. So,
Look, I'm gonna have to look up inadvertent in the dictionary. I think they've got a different definition than I do.
it's really unusual that I got just part of the information, and I had to reconcile it to come up
Mhm.
to clarify that I had not received all of it. And then today, now we've not had time, we just picked this stuff up this morning,
Right.
and we've not had time to go through it. But here's the information that was inadvertently omitted.
Yeah, 160 pages, I think.
I think it's 169. Strangely, and I've not gone through it, strangely, one of these memos, which they're handwritten,
Well-
y'all don't have computers out there?
Well, we don't have even legal pads with lines on them, apparently.
One memo that apparently was inadvertently omitted has an additional write-off of $474,505.42. Very nearly the number I said I was missing.
Right.
Now, that could be a coincidence. I haven't seen many coincidences in my entire life. But that could be one, and it may well be the first one.
That's right.
And I'm looking through these things, these receivables that were written off, and what is a receivable? That's cash that they haven't collected.
Right.
And those are our tax dollars that were lent out to somebody
Right.
with a promise to pay.
Right. Or it's a service that we've provided.
That's
we
correct.
have provided.
That is correct.
Okay.
Like the Kingsville debacle.
Right.
$54,000 that apparently Delmar sent some professors down there to teach some remedial courses, and something happened and nobody invoiced them and nobody got paid, and now no one will talk to us about it.
No.
And they won't even talk to Channel 6.
Well,
They talked to them for a while, but then everything went silent.
I like that term eventually that's in the dictionary.
But that could be, eventually could be well beyond your and my lifetime.
I don't think so. Yeah, we need to find out for the taxpayers out there.
And these are significant numbers.
Yeah.
Just absolutely astounding numbers.
Okay, well, on this, there's one in there that says access something or another.
It does.
Okay, and how much is
Access
that?
indirect, $8,043.
Okay, now that's not the first time we've seen that number yet.
You know-
Or that name,
It isn't.
okay?
I'm sorry, these binders are actually very heavy.
I know, we're getting there.
But,
We're in tonnage now instead of pounds.
you know, and it's not like this stuff is easy to find. We're looking for needles in a haystack, but these needles are huge. Here's Access TP. Now that is on, Doctor, that's the original, one of the original 3 documents that you found
Right.
in that 5-foot stack
Mhm.
of bad debt write-offs. The one that totaled $185,750.64 that read AR third-party receivables to be written off.
Right.
So there, the top one says Access-TP, and that is only for $7,515.
So is that in addition now to, or can we tell another 8,000? That'd be $15,000.
These are all big numbers.
But you'd think this is what bothers me. If you write off a company like that once, and then you come back later and have to write off some more from that company, what in the world is Delmar College doing dealing with those vendors?
That's an awfully valid question.
I mean, I can't figure it out.
And that actually leads into internal controls.
Well, we don't have an internal auditor.
You have no internal auditor. I would say you desperately need an internal auditor.
I think we have since 2007.
Or before.
Well,
And Doctor, I've not gone through these, but this one really sticks out. And I don't have a clue what it is, but a memo from a Christian Garza to John Johnson. Now, John Johnson's the college controller.
right.
This memo's typed, so somebody's got a computer over there. He or she is recommending, this is dated February 13th, 2008. She's recommending, it is my recommendation to write off account number in the amount of $110,654.39. The account was used by microloan grant, the microloan grant. I don't know what that is, but I know what $110,000 looks like.
I'm just gonna have to ask what the microloan was.
That is twice the annual income of the average American family.
Well, I mean, yeah, we're hiring full-time tenure-track people in as instructors, Ed, with a master's degree. Some of them, if you come in with a PhD, you go into associate professor. But they don't make that much on their 9-month contract. It starts at about $40 some odd thousand.
And, we don't have any information on this $110,000 write-off,
Mm-hmm.
but if there was a green card if they've written a certified letter,
Mhm.
we've requested all those at least 2 times.
And how many have we received?
We received all of them, it was 0. Everyone ever sent out and received, we got 0.
And we asked for any letters and so forth and so on. Now, all we got, ladies and gentlemen, when it came to student defaults on their loans and so forth, is they incorporated a letter to that student, and it was not sent out certified return receipt. It was just regular mail that says, you know, if you don't pay this up, then we're going to put it in the computer. And I guess they've got one, much to our dismay. But we're not going to provide you with any of your transcripts. So what do? They go sign up at another college. And I came up with a phrase today, Ed. I said, what triggered this is you and I were over at Del Mar today to pick up this information. And there's posters everywhere that says free money.
There are.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
pointed
free
them out.
money, ladies and gentlemen. I told Ed that that's what happened. So on the way out of the Hartman Center, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I said, it's free money for everybody else except me. My money's not free, or my money's free
To them.
to them, you know,
We have to work for our money.
but I can't get any money. I don't get any freebies over there. And then when I work my heart out, you know what I get? I get reprimanded. It's some mundane. Anyway, I won't get into that on this show. Just plug me in, folks, on YouTube at Gerald Sanson and take a look at 2 shows that I do. One of them is South Texas News and Reviews, and the other one is What's Going On in Corpus Christi. And What's Going On in Corpus Christi is a show that I do for the Taxpayers Association because I am the president. And this burns me up, folks, and it should burn you up. So email me. Email Ed. Just, you know. But, okay, what have you found now? I'm afraid to ask. Ah, jeez.
Okay, it's scaring me. I do apologize.
Well, if you're scared as a CPA fellow, MBA accountant, then it petrifies me.
Actually, it's an MS accountancy, not an MBA.
Oh, okay.
It's much more specific.
Right, okay, MS, I stand corrected.
And I have seen some really dirty stuff in my time, really dirty.
Right.
And in fact, I testified under subpoena against a Big 4 accounting firm that had issued an S1, which is an initial public offering,
Mhm.
that was completely fraudulent.
Oh, no.
And nobody would say anything. I did. I didn't have a problem saying it.
Right,
I just told them the facts.
okay.
It was done years before I went to work for the company. I figured it out. I said this thing was a fraud from the start.
Right.
Deloitte too settled out of court for 8 digits on that.
That was 11 million, wasn't it?
One of the checks was 11 million. There were 3 checks written.
Mhm.
So I have seen some really nasty stuff.
Right.
And I'll tell you,
Well, you can spot it a mile out.
well, and some of it you can't. Some of it's really, some of these people, some of it's really bad. But some of it they get pretty good at. But while we're on that, and it may be totally unrelated, because all we're seeing is some things that we don't have answers to. Very bothersome things. But I take these continuing education
Ooh,
courses.
I like that one.
Yeah, this one's called Fraud
Yes,
Examination and Fraud Awareness Auditing.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you, it's very pertinent on the last paragraph of the first chapter. It says prevention and detection still resides largely in the private sector. Auditors don't find fraud, people tell them about it.
Okay.
And that's people like you and me.
Mhm.
We have to look at things and say, this doesn't make sense. Why doesn't it make sense? And then we have to look further. Now, we don't know that there's fraud here. We really don't.
No.
We know there's something wrong.
Mhm.
They can't seem to collect their receivables.
Right.
And we have focused only on their accounts receivables at Delmar.
Mhm.
That's all we're looking at. And it's taking them 3 months,
Sure.
from December 10
Mhm.
to February 27th, to come up,
March.
I'm sorry, March 27th.
27th, yeah, that's another month, yeah.
But it's taken them that long to supply information that appears in audited financial statements.
Hmm.
And they ask for to extend the time because of research. These are accounting records.
It should be at the stroke of a.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I know how to get information out of an accounting system.
Yeah, those computer keyboards are marvelous.
And the software has it in it.
Mhm.
Now, they did some horrible conversion of their software in 2010, and we've obtained at least 2 memos that say, oops, we lost some stuff.
Right.
And I've talked about that before, but honestly, with my background, with my experience, those 2 memos are horrifying.
Right.
Horrifying. That doesn't happen. That's not an accounting issue. That's a common sense issue.
Right.
And something's really wrong when you've got people in control of $90 million, $90 million of expenses.
And that's another one of the publications.
I think we won an award on this, I believe.
Right. Well, let me ask you this.
Total operating expenses, $90,520,000. Now,
That's a lot of money.
somebody's in charge of $90 million, of writing $90 million in checks a year,
Mhm.
and it didn't occur to them that they needed to reconcile the beginning or the ending accounts receivable to the beginning accounts receivable at a conversion.
Mhm.
That's bothersome.
Well, let me just back up for a minute. I have been preaching or putting out on my shows and this one an MBA. Okay. Now I'm going to stand corrected. It just finally dawned on me that if a person has an MBA, that covers
That's
financially, management, and everything else. But when it struck me a few minutes ago, if you've got a Master of Science degree in accounting, then that.
I have 27 hours undergraduate and 27 hours graduate accounting hours.
Okay.
And,
Right.
and that is primarily why I passed the CPA exam before I got my master's degree. I was still a student.
Mhm.
Most people don't do that. I was studying accounting.
Right.
I did that. If you get an MBA, it could be an MBA in accounting,
Right.
but it won't have as many hours.
Right. Yeah.
And it could be an MBA in management, and it has
Yeah.
9 hours.
You know, or banking, finance.
That's right, finance. I love finance. I just knew that I couldn't make any money in it.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it from me. I apologize, Ed.
And,
But the man.
and there's your $90 million.
Yeah. Well,
$90 million, $90,520,000.
$90.5 million.
Those are big numbers.
Yep.
And
And then, you know, what bothers me is when you look at the student enrollments and stuff going down, and we've got this 95 acres out here that.
there's their student enrollment. Now, that's not through this semester because it fell almost 500 students this
Right.
semester.
Mhm.
It's on a horrible decline trend.
Mhm.
And the 95 acres sitting right over here,
Right.
that is going to need a lot of land to fill it up so that it doesn't flood.
Mhm.
I would love to have a college campus within a mile of my house.
Yeah.
That will boost the value of my house.
Mhm.
I don't want to pay for an empty college campus.
Right. Well, you got somebody fussing at you on the phone already,
Yeah.
man. That happens to me all the time.
So,
Well, it's something else, and then, I don't know, I'm gonna go ahead and address this. I have been teaching a certain course every fall semester for 20-some odd years, I think 25, 26 years, okay? I can't believe I've been at Delmar that much, or that length of time having that much fun. But there is some people ran an out-of-sequence class. It's a majors microbiology class, and I've got all my pre-med students in there, biology majors, pre-dent, pre-pharmacy, pre-everything under the world. And I can usually fill it up at 24 students once a year. Then all of a sudden, we had a favorite son over there that was provided with that class as an experiment to do research at that level. Now this is a sophomore class. And so I was a little bit perturbed because I was never consulted about that. I just found out one day that, oh, well, they're going to run another course here. There's a 25 student limit on it. In order to get 14 students total, folks, 14 total signed up for it. Whoever taught that, and I'm not going to mention names, went ahead and dropped the prerequisites that I have for that class. I want prerequisites of freshman biology. It's called Biology 1406 at Del Mar College, which is a cell and molecular background class. And then they've got a 1407, which is more straight biology with the ecological end of it and taxonomy and so forth. And then I wanted them to take Chemistry 1412, which is the second in the freshman chemistry majors. This is majors, not the pre-allied health. And they need that in order to understand what I present in that class. Well, all of those prerequisites were dropped, and they wound up with only 14 students out of the 24. Now, the last time I taught it last fall, the semester before this one, then I had 26 in there. I overloaded it by 2 because the Del Mar College business department over there, the payroll, or not payroll, but the business department had taken their money, 2 students that took their money on credit card, and then dropped them because they said they hadn't paid for the class. Mm-hmm. So they came crying to me. I mean, this is a terminal course for those 2 people. So I went ahead and overloaded that class, which it's painful for me to do. But all 26 in that class, folks, had the prerequisites that I required for that class. Okay? Now, so they've dropped that. So what we did, Mr. Bennett did this, is he went ahead through Public Information Act request on February 15th and asked for various items concerning that class. And we got the results today of that, which was very disturbing to me. I think we only got 13 pages. But I asked for the information concerning when that class, well, I'll just read them off. And I said I want any and all documents associated with the justification and establishment of an out-of-sequence biology course. Now, if you run it twice a year, you're going to be paying a professor both semesters to teach what I was teaching during one semester. Okay? So that's not cost effective. But they like this golly gee whiz, we're going to run research for the lab components of it. Well, folks, I know research. I've been in that business since 1963, and that's been a lot of years, okay? And then it says, I said any and all documents and so forth associated with the cost of equipment and supplies that have been or will be purchased for the conduction of the course. Now, it's my understanding prior to this request that it was in excess of $10,000 to go ahead and give this new section with a different lab. And then I don't think that included hiring what they call as a TA, and we're not supposed to have TAs there, teaching assistants, and hiring a person to actually conduct the labs and so forth and so on, and paying a full-time professor is supposed to be taking care of that lab. Now, I've never had a single soul in 25 years go in and teach my lab or make up solutions and growth media and so forth and so on, and then order a bunch of stuff. And I know, I've been told at one time that I saved that college $120,000 a year because I'm over there on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays prepping those labs and so forth to teach them myself. So there's, Lord knows how much more this costs. Now, the response I got for that one was no responsive documents. So you mean to tell me that Del Mar College didn't know how much money they spent to support that class?
I hate to speculate on that, but
Yeah.
based on this, quite possibly.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I wasn't gonna try to be nasty about this, Ed. And then I asked for, let's see, I said, documentation that all students had completed the suggested course prerequisites. And then it says, no responsive documents provided for total student enrollment, no responsive documents that all students had completed the suggested course prerequisites. Now, you're doing a student a great disservice, folks, by not having prerequisites, because if they walk in and I expect them to know basic chemistry and basic cell and molecular structures and so forth of microorganisms and versus animals, you know, and so forth, then they don't know what I'm talking about. They have the faintest idea.
Doctor, I don't have any science background, but what I'm seeing is that it was a course that was elevated to research status without the prerequisites.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense to me. Right? If it's going to be elevated to research, which I can't understand a sophomore class being research anyway,
No.
but if it's a research class, wouldn't they need at least the prerequisites?
I would hope so.
Very confusing to me, and I am not a scientist, but I have also done research, but not at the undergraduate level.
Well, I was in industrial research, antibiotic research, and so forth and so on, other biochemical research and micro for a large number of years before I retired at Del Mar. So I know the research business, folks, and I know what it takes. Okay? And then let's see, number 4 was all documents related to the hiring of a teaching assistant for preparing and conducting the laboratory component of that class. And they said that they had one page confidential that had been redacted for that, and it does show that they did hire a person for so many hours and so forth and so on.
Okay, student enrollment's going down, costs are going up.
Yeah.
And I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I believe the percentage of the cost that's being allocated to instruction is also going down.
Sure it is.
So,
Well, you know, the money we get from the feds and the state and so forth are totally and completely predicated on the number of students, the enrollment. So those numbers are going down, Ed.
well, the costs are going up, and they are. They're increasing.
Sure it is.
So let me just logically, if your student enrollment's going down and the government subsidy's going down, but your costs are going up, where's the difference going to come from?
Well, it's called taxpayers.
That's us.
That's right.
That's our money. It's not the students. I mean,
Yeah.
their tuition, the part that they collect, is I believe 12% or so of the
Yeah.
total budget.
Right.
And that may not include the part they
Yeah,
write off.
well, we depend on federal money, state money, and Lord knows local taxes. And local taxes to the community college here in Corpus Christi is one of the highest in the state.
It's historically been number 2 or 3 in the state. Operating property taxes 38%, debt service property taxes 8%.
It's 46%.
You're getting real close to half,
That's right.
and the costs are going up.
And then they say, oh, well, these are state and federal taxes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, in addition to paying for the district, who's paying the state taxes and the federal taxes? It's me and thee, folks.
The federal government doesn't create any money, they collect it.
That's right.
They don't have a business that they sell things and make a profit.
Right.
They collect the money from us.
Yeah, neither does the state.
The state collects their sales tax,
Gasoline.
excise taxes,
Yeah.
so that's our money.
Mhm.
And we desperately need a community college in this town.
We do.
We're the second most illiterate city in America,
Mhm.
right behind Bakersfield, California.
Okay.
What an embarrassment. And CCISD, bottom 25% of the ISDs in Texas.
Right.
And drive around Texas and you'll see some real hillbilly places.
Oh, yeah.
And they're apparently above us.
Oh, yes.
We desperately need a community college that is efficient.
Mhm.
And the community college has to fulfill the obligations that CCISD is failing at.
Right.
It-
Which
it-
cost,
We've already paid those taxes,
right.
and those kids have either graduated or dropped out, and they're going to Del Mar to get a GED or to get their remedial courses because they can't read above the 4th grade level.
That's right.
So, what happens when an 18-year-old becomes a 24-year-old that can't read above the 4th grade level?
Well, that's on welfare.
He's not employable, he's getting a check from the state or the federal,
Mhm.
and he's out committing crimes.
Well, that's,
And that's why our crime rate is high. This is a horrible cycle that can only be broken at both CCISD and Del Mar levels.
right. And the way you cure that, ladies and gentlemen, is go vote and pay attention to what's being told to you.
And verify.
Yeah. Well, if
I
tell you
heard some
something,
things.
you know, go verify it with somebody else. You know, don't believe me particularly, but go ask. You know,
We heard before the last bond election, we heard on TV how Del Mar was bursting at the seams.
right, and that's still being told. That's still being preached.
Well, if it's bursting at the seams, it's because the administrators have been hired that are stuffed in those buildings.
Right.
Because it's not the students. The student count is going down. I suspect the professor count's going down with
It
the
is.
student count.
It is.
So if there's any bursting at the seams going on at Del Mar College now, it's got to be the administrators because that cost is going up.
Right. Well, the Wall Street Journal put it very, very succinctly within the last 2 years. And they said they blamed the higher education cost on administrative bloat. And all we need, folks, is a president, and we need a decent financial officer to take care of things, okay? That at least can spell CPA and accounting, and not just write off everything and then give me handwritten, you know, copies of the financial reports. When, you know, at least you can use lined, you know, notebook paper, but to try to read some of this garbage. And then, you know, and then all you need is somebody that realizes as a president of any college, particularly Del Mar College, that all of that function is at that level is to provide professors and instructors with what they need to teach the class. We don't need all this other fluff. We don't need these you know, wonderful books like this.
Award winning.
Yeah, award winning. And then what you do is you pay a fee to that person that awards
That issues the award.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's crazy, folks. It's absolute insanity.
And let me just say that I believe that the annual budget for advertising is in the $1 million neighborhood.
It's a little over $1 million, is my understanding.
Okay, so since 2010, that'd be 5 years, it's been $5 million spent on advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And if we draw a line of the enrollment, it's on a downward slope
Right.
at I believe it's over 18% decline
Right.
since
Right.
2010.
I'd say that's ineffective.
Something's not working. And it's not like all the kids are going out when they graduate from high school and making $60,000,
Right.
because that didn't really happen. But if it did happen with Eagle Ford, it was for such a brief period
Right.
that they're all back in school now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're not back
They're
in
not.
school.
Well, they're moving out of the area.
Even after the decline in the oil price, Del Mar lost almost 500 students. And that was after passing the bond for $157 million.
57 million, yeah.
So we got a bond for $187 million and lost nearly 5% of the students.
Well, how many people in this community, other than the people coming in for Eagle Ford that aren't going to go to Del Mar anyway, how many of you fine folks out there, taxpayers, never heard of Del Mar College, and you need to have these ads on for $1 million a year to convince you that you need to go to Del Mar College? How many of you don't know of the existence of this place?
I'll bet if they read their annual tax statement, they know it.
You bet, I do.
And I don't have a problem paying that. I'd pay twice that if we had an effective
Yes.
community college.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.
the numbers are going down, the student numbers are going down,
Good.
the costs are going up. We're getting these horrendous replies to these Public Information Act requests, and it's taken them almost 3 months to fulfill what I asked for in December 10th.
Right, and you know what the Attorney General says under Public Information Act request, don't you? 10 working days, or you write the Attorney General's office for an opinion, and that's what they do. They spend a lot of your money having a $450 an hour attorney up in Austin trying to smoke screen this and tell me that I can't get information.
And it's on almost all the PIAs that I write.
Right.
And doctor, I have to write multiple PIAs to get the one request that I asked for.
Right.
And I don't know if you remember it, but last year I was wanting a chart of accounts. I wanted to see what the accounting chart of accounts looked like for Delmar, so
Right.
that I could understand it. 2 different times, one in writing, I was told that I'd already received the chart of accounts and they would produce it again if I wanted it. But I hadn't received it, and I knew instantly that I hadn't, because I know what a chart of accounts looks
Yeah,
like.
I know. Yeah.
And you and I went in there to meet with Miss McDonald, and I explained to her, I said, maybe you don't know what a chart of accounts is because I don't know what your background is. She said, I know exactly what a chart of accounts is. I believe she said she had an MBA.
That's my recollection.
And at that point, I was stunned because she told me in writing once and verbally another time that she'd already produced a chart of accounts. She said, no, I know what it is. I know I haven't given it to you, but all I can give you is what they give me, the department head gives me.
Right.
So when I got a letter from Miss McDonald that said I'd asked for 7 general ledger detail accounts, 7 of them, and she wrote me a very nicely written letter that said for $26.7 million I could get that information.
Right, but it'd take 120 years to do it.
105 years.
105. That was 105 million documents.
Oh, you're right.
Over 120 years.
You're better with numbers than I am. You're right. And you know, I'm 62 years old. I couldn't wait that long. So I wrote the Attorney General, and we contacted Channel 6, and actually they called the Attorney General.
Right.
and I called the Attorney General after that, and after a brief interlude, I think there was some shock on the other end of that
I think a little bit, yeah.
So I was told to put a letter together, which I did. And in that letter, I also explained that they told me they'd given me the information, but in fact, they knew they hadn't.
Mm-hmm.
And doctor, within 2 days, I had PDF files emailed to me.
Right.
Remarkably.
Yeah, I'll be darned. How about that?
And that's after going through incredible lengths to get it and being told that I already had it when they knew I didn't. And while we're on that 26.7 million, who's that nice lady over at Delmar that's the public information officer? Is that Claudia?
Yeah, Miss Jackson.
Okay. She was on the camera with Rick Spurl,
Mm-hmm.
and she said, I'm paraphrasing, but she said, Rick, I can't say it any more times, there was a mathematical mistake.
Right.
Well, and she said that several times on camera. And then the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, is it Star-Telegram?
Mm-hmm.
They published an article on PIAs, a series on PIAs, and they must have done a search on the internet for outrageous PIA requests.
26.7 million.
But somehow they got a hold of me. And in the response that Delmar had, because they're a reporter that contacted Delmar, and she said something entirely different to him.
Oh,
She didn't say it was a mathematical mistake.
No,
So,
it was an extensive amount of things that you,
And
documents that you want.
I had changed my request, but I never changed my
No,
request.
you didn't.
I wanted 7 general ledger details,
Yeah.
and I got 7 general ledger details. In the end, after our brief meeting, very brief meeting with Mr. Rivera, which he, poor man, they gave him a pile of garbage,
Yeah.
and he sorted it out in less than 15 minutes. But
Isn't it amazing?
a mathematical error, and then a different story to a different reporter.
Oh, yeah, it was, you didn't ask for, you didn't specify what you wanted, or some nonsense like that.
But it wasn't the same story that was on TV here,
That's right.
so we had a different response. So it's been, it appears as if I am filing many PIA requests, when actually I'm filing the same one for the same document multiple times.
That's right.
And it's costing us, the taxpayers, thousands of excess dollars, because Graves Daughtry gets involved, the law firm out of, wonderful law firm out of Boston. They did hire the best.
Well, the thing is, you know, anytime you order that, oh, well, we'll just see if they'll go away. We'll just make a request for opinion from the Attorney General's office, and here's $450 an hour. You know, and maybe these guys will go away. Well, folks, I'm not going away.
This is the first account we're looking at, the allowance for doubtful accounts.
Mhm.
That's the first one, because we were sitting in a restaurant a year and a half ago, looking at the budget, and I said, why do they have bad debts? And with student enrollment going down, why is it going up?
Mhm.
And it kind of just jumped out at me.
Yeah. Well, and then we went to that one, quote, workshop, or I did, where the CFO said that they were doing everything they could to recoup that money. And then
Exhausted all,
yeah, exhausted all mechanisms or
collection
whatever.
efforts.
Yeah, collection efforts. So I said, well, let me see. That's
And-
when I've got 5 feet of paperwork over there that they generated.
That's exactly right. And in my opinion, based on my education, my experience, both as an auditor and as an accounting executive, finance executive with publicly traded corporations, to collect an accounts receivable, you almost always have to send out a letter.
Right.
And if you've got a bad accounts receivable, you've got to send a certified letter.
Mhm.
And then the next thing you do is you sue them.
Yeah.
Now, Delmar had exhausted all collection efforts, yet they hadn't sent one certified letter. They hadn't filed one lawsuit, because I sent a PIA
Yeah.
request in for all the lawsuits.
Mhm.
I got all those back. It was 0.
0.
So,
Well, the thing that bothers me, here they are writing off $54,000 for Texas A&M University, Kingsville, and we asked for even the letter that went out for the demand for payment, and that's all been covered up. We haven't seen that yet. So, now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not through with that one yet. If I have to go down there and with a rusty pair of pliers and start pulling teeth at Kingsville, I'm going to get to the bottom of that one. Somebody is lying big time. But to stall us out, and how long has that been since we asked for that? It's been over a year.
year and a half.
Yeah.
Year and a half. And this is the first account that we've focused on, and it's this difficult to get the information, which is basically coming out of their audited financial statements. What we did was take the audited financial statement numbers, and we're trying to follow the audit trail backward to the source document, which should be an easy procedure. It's not.
Well,
It's been horrible.
yeah. Well, as the president of Taxpayers Association in Corpus Christi, Texas, what bothers me about that is we have a locally supported community college with you taxpayers. You also pay state and federal taxes. And then we also have Texas A&M, which is all Texas state taxpayers. And then we can't get an accounting of why Delmar College has blown $54,000 of your money, essentially, and because another state agency owns it. Are you taxpayers not paying your taxes? What's going on? I mean, something stinks, folks. That's all I can say.
They shouldn't be allowed to cover that up.
No.
That they should produce the documents. I think they're required to. We're gonna find out.
Oh, well, I'm not through with them.
We're in contact with that agency out of Austin,
Right.
the Independent Public Information Act.
Mhm.
I don't know what the name of the agency is, but we're going to get this
Yeah.
information,
Okay.
and there's a fiduciary responsibility here,
Oh, yeah.
both at A&M
Right.
and certainly at Delmar.
Mhm.
And I think that fiduciary responsibility goes all the way up to the Board of Regents.
Oh, and yes, sir, it does.
Uh,
So it's called the Freedom of Information Foundation of Texas.
Okay, and they know about us,
I'm a contributor.
and they have voiced an opinion on that $26.7 million letter as well, on the air,
Yeah.
with Mr.
Channel
Spurl,
6.
yeah. So, we're not through. And we're not gonna be through until we get the facts, and it's really difficult to get the facts, which is very, very disturbing, very disturbing. Doctor, we're just about out of time,
Okay.
so,
I'll just say that I had relatives out there with John Paul Jones when he said, "I have not yet begun to fight."
with that, we're gonna wrap it up today.
You got it.
Okay, thanks for viewing the show. We are currently looking at another memo from Ms. Garza to Mr. Johnson, the college controller, dated February 13th, 2008, regarding write-off of AR 0-28400. This memo reads, "It is my recommendation to write off account number 0-28400-1390 in the amount of $110,654.39. The account was used by the microloan grant. The $110,654.39 has been on the books in allowance for doubtful accounts since 2003-2004 fiscal year. There has been no activity in 1390 since the initial amount was placed here." Let's think about this. We've got a $110,000 balance in accounts receivable. That's an asset for the college. This memo, written by Ms. Garza to the controller, says let's write it off. It's been there's been no activity. It's a huge amount. Now, what was the micro loan grant? And why is it a receivable that was never collected? Well, we're going to do more research on this. There's no activity in it. Well, okay, how did it get recorded? Why was it not collected? We already know from previous Public Information Act requests that actually there weren't many collection efforts made. No certified letters were mailed out. No litigation was initiated by the college against any accounts receivable. Nobody was sued. Why are we writing $110,000 off based on this memo? It doesn't talk about the collection process. It doesn't say anything about why the accounts receivable wasn't collected. It just says there was no activity in it. Now, this is very bothersome, and it should be to all taxpayers for any number of reasons. We're going to go back to the source documents on this one. Remember, this is a memo, or be aware that this is a memo that was obtained through Public Information Act request, not in the fulfillment of the first request. It was obtained after we realized that we hadn't received all the documentation that was actually requested. So, after the college, Delmar College, fulfilled the initial request for the $2.838 million of debits to the allowance for doubtful accounts, that would be the amounts written off from accounts receivable to the allowance for doubtful accounts, which means those assets were gone. The $2.838 million was written off over a 7-year period. We sent in a Public Information Act request for the detail of that. When we received the response much later, not 10 days later, much later, this was initiated in December 10th, we got the response, the initial response, on February 13th. Now, that initial response was missing almost $500,000 of write-offs. So we filed another Public Information Act request on February 15th, 2 days later, asking for the rest of the documents that we were told were already provided on February 13th. They were not. This memo was a component of the remainder of those documents. So it wasn't initially provided in response to the Public Information Act request that had actually requested it. Was it withheld? Well, it wasn't provided. Why would it not be provided? Well, let's look at it. This memo says let's write off the $110,000. It doesn't say why, other than there has been no activity. Should there not have been activity? If it was a receivable, what was it for? How was it initially recorded? Normally, a receivable is recorded for revenue. It may have been something different. We don't know. We're going to file additional Public Information Act request. This is very disturbing. It involves a number of issues, one of which is fiduciary responsibility. We've just received this, and we're going to follow up on it and not ignore it. These are big problems that in any company would be significant. Certainly in a taxpayer-supported entity, it's significant enough that somebody should be answering to it. Why did this happen? What actually happened? We'll continue to follow this up. We're going to keep you posted. Thank you for joining us today. Please email us, ed@southtexasmis.com. If you have any questions, any observations, or any insight. Thank you so much.